I was thinking about it earlier today, and this has been a really good season for the Cleveland Browns and for Browns fans. I mean, if you look at the individual things like players, the things we normally have to clinch onto because we don't have a good team, Nick Chubb has established himself as one of the best two running backs in football. Myles Garrett is probably the best defensive player in football, not named Aaron Donald. Baker Mayfield seems to reestablish his status as the future quarterback of this franchise. And even his draft mate in Denzel Ward has really established himself as the best defensive back in football, if not in that class. And then you look at the record, if we just take away all the personal success stuff, you look at the record, and this team's 8-3. And 8-3 despite some circumstance, right? Nick Chubb not being there for a month. Wyatt Teller not being there for a month. These are two players who are the best at their position. Then you add on that you don't have Odell Beckham, that you don't have Grant Delpit. So many injuries on the defensive side of the ball. A big piece in your defensive line rotation, and Andrew Billings opts out because of everything going on around it. And then also everything else that went around this season. Plus you had a new head coach. Plus you had a new GM. This should not be going this well. This team should not be going this good. But yet, despite all of those things, this team has not only overcome it, but also at the same time, not gotten any credit for any of that, right? People just point to, well, they haven't beaten great teams and just use that as a reason not to get behind this team. And that got me thinking, right? That disparity between what this team has accomplished despite everything that they have had to deal with. I mean, like losing Odell Beckham is a season tanker for most teams. Losing your best running back for 4 weeks alongside your best offensive guard is normally a season tanker for most teams. Having a new head coach when there's no OTAs or training camp, I mean, there was training camp, but no preseason, is normally a season tanker for most teams. But yet, despite all that, they're 8-3. And it still feels like something's not right. It still feels like something's missing. And it dawned on me what that one thing is. And what is it? Well, let's talk about it. Before I get into this video, I want to make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ding that notification bell. We are super close to hitting 20,000 subscribers. That's a mile marker that I would love to hit before, let's say, Christmas time. So let's try to do it. We're super close to it, and I would greatly appreciate that. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button, and ding that notification bell so you don't miss anything. I have live streams after the games. They're very fun. A bunch of people like to jump on them, and then I also have content pretty much every day, especially since we're getting to the meat of the season. So make sure you do those things. You won't regret it. So back to what I was talking about in the intro of this video. What is this season missing, right? Because I think we can all agree it's missing something. There's just something that's not there. Usually I'm more excited about the Browns when they have just a game or two games over 500 record. But this team, for whatever reason, it feels different. It almost feels like they jumped a step, right? Where they went from mediocre to disappointing. And then normally there's a step in between that's like middling and good, and you see them kind of develop. And then you get to where the Browns are, and then there's another step, which is like top 3 team in the league kind of deal. So it's kind of weird that the Browns took that step, but also kind of skipped that step while having all of these things go against it. And I was wondering, why does it feel weird? Why is it that on the same time that this team is only like 3 years removed from an 0-16 season, that we can feel somewhat disappointed about an 8-3 record? Like, how is that possible? And then it clicked. It clicked. What a lot of other seasons had that this season just hasn't had yet. Now, it could come later, and the later it comes, the better it is, more than anything, right? Is a signature moment, but more a signature win. That signature game. When you talk about this season, what is the game that you talk about, right? In 2002, it's either the Atlanta game that got the Browns clinched into the playoffs, or it's the road win at Baltimore where Tim Couch had that drive. In 2007, that moment should have been the Pittsburgh game. For some people, that moment was the second game against Cincinnati, where the season really got rolling in a big shootout there. In 2014, they would have had the signature game when they won against Pittsburgh and blew them out. It's a game that people still remember till this day. It's the only time they've really blown out Ben Roethlisberger ever in franchise history. And then you have this season. And this season has been great. You have overcome the ton, but you have not had signature moments. The closest thing to a signature moment is Baker Mayfield's last drive, but the one caveat in that is against a Bengals team that's probably going to finish as a 2-win team, a top 5 pick team, especially since Joe Burrow is out. So that kind of negates the magic of that moment, even though the team you were playing at the time was not that bad. They had Joe Burrow. It's just that's how they're going to finish. That's how history is going to remember it. And then you have the Indy game, which was a good win. And as the weeks go on, it looks like a better win. But it really wasn't a dominating moment or a super hopeful moment in that game. It was a game where the Browns got the lead early on and they kind of just hung on and took advantage of some mistakes to win and kind of squeezed it out like they have done so many other victories. And, all the other moments happen against teams that are going to finish so bad. The Odell Beckham play with Dallas. And then it's going to be even weirder because Odell Beckham, it feels like he played a season ago, right? Because that injury just feels like so long ago, even though it wasn't that long ago. So you're not really going to associate that with this season. And it's like this season has been amazing, but it doesn't have a lot of amazing individual kind of clips and games in between it, right? It's just been a collection of wins so far. And that's great. But I think that's what's missing for a lot of Browns fans. Why so many Browns fans are so cynical about this team, despite this being by far, hands down. It's not even close. This is the best team the Browns have had since they come back in 1999. I don't think that it's close at all. But despite that being, when you go into Baltimore, you lay an egg. When you play Pittsburgh, you laid an egg. You lost that game to Oakland. Las Vegas, the Raiders, and you just don't have those moments, which brings me to this week, the Titans game on the road, because you know what? This is the one chance this Cleveland Browns team has in the regular season. Now, again, if it doesn't happen in the regular season, they don't get the signature moment in the regular season, but they get into the playoffs, that's better. Honestly, that's much better. But this is the one chance they have in the regular season to kind of have that moment, right? It's a road game against Tennessee. Not a lot of people think you're going to win. Both teams are coming in with great records. It's going to be a team game that most people are paying attention to across the country. It is a moment to have a statement game or, have that signature win if you're the Cleveland Browns, because the other two moments, Pittsburgh and Baltimore on your schedule, Baltimore being the one you were kind of looking forward to earlier in the season, where you're going to play a Baltimore team on Monday Night Football. Now you don't know if that game is going to happen on Monday night, to who's going to be playing that game for Baltimore or for Cleveland. And then with Pittsburgh, same deal, not because of the same situation, but just because the Steelers might not be in a position to really need to have to play that game if Kansas City loses a game here or there, or if Pittsburgh continues to win out. So that being said, those two games being up in the air and, people having more asterisks to be able to put on those two games against the Ravens and the Steelers if the Browns win it, this is the one game there's really no excuse you can make if you're somebody who does not think this Browns team is for real if they win. And I don't want to overstate the importance of this game. If the Browns lose it, they'll be completely fine when it comes to the playoff race. They're in a good enough position to be able to withstand a loss here. But for the narrative of the season, for the psyche of some of the lapsed Browns fans that have tried to kind of shed their cynicism but have not been able to successfully because of the two big losses this season, I think this is that moment. This is that opportunity for this Browns team to get everybody behind them. this team should. I mean, I've not seen an 8-3 team in Cleveland ever be so polarizing that it is this year. And I think this is the moment that can just make everybody just shut up and understand this team's really good. And this team has a chance to make some noise in the playoffs, hopefully. And this is that moment against Tennessee. It's a game that I don't even have much confidence that the Browns are going to be able to win. I'll get into that in the preview, but it's going to be something interesting because right now the Browns aren't respected by the NFL, quite frankly. I don't think other NFL teams look at the Browns as a 8-3 team, and the national media. And the national media, obviously, they're always going to be behind. It's kind of what they do. But for the other NFL teams thing, that's actually something that's important because, yeah, they don't look at the Browns as an easy win, but they don't necessarily look at the Browns as a team they need to fear. Like if you get the Browns in the wild card, I don't think a lot of teams off reputation are going to be afraid of that. But if you do something like beat Tennessee in Tennessee, well, then that's going to change a lot of people's minds. So that's needed. If the Browns want to add some fear factor into them and kind of get hot late, that's important. And look, this team has persevered through a ton of adversity just to get to this point. And it is amazing that they have not only gotten to 8-3 through all this all the things that have gotten in their way, but they really should be 9-2 if they didn't lay an egg against the Raiders at home. So they really should be a 9-2 team. And it's amazing they have gotten there when you look at the people who has been injured, when you look at the things that just went wrong for this team. And I was trying to think of a way to sum up how this game coming up against Tennessee is important and what is going to be important about it. And then I remembered, I think on my last live stream, my last post-game live stream, I went on a little bit of a rant at the end of it. And those things are like 2 hours long, so I don't expect everybody to go out and watch the whole thing. But I want to show you guys the clip from the end of that live stream. And I think that perfectly describes where I'm at with this team and what a win against Tennessee could mean and couldn't mean. Here's that clip. And also, I know this video was a little bit more ranty than what I normally do, but I just had this thought on my mind. I just wanted to get it off my chest. So I hope you guys enjoy that and enjoy this last kind of speech that I had at the end of the postgame show last week. I think it perfectly describes what's on my mind. But if I can say one thing before this stream ends is I'm happy they're at 8-3. I'm glad they'll be there. And we're going to have a lot of fun talking about what happened this week, but also what's going to happen against the Titans coming up. But the one thing Kevin Stefanski has to do, the one thing this Cleveland Browns team has to do, needs to do, if they want to truly arrive, truly convince people that the Cleveland Browns are back, the sleeping giant has awakened, and put fear into teams coming into the playoffs, they have to get that signature win. And the way it's looking, it's not going to be Baltimore because we don't know what Baltimore's situation is going to be. It's not going to be Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh, week 17, they might not even play their starters. It might not mean as much. So your one opportunity to get that signature win that will tell everybody you have arrived. You are an upper echelon team worthy of only having 3 losses. That you are a team worth fearing is by stepping into Nissan Stadium and doing exactly what the Titans did to you last year, which is take all of your hype, all of your legitimacy, steal it from you in your home stadium and flaunt it at you. The Titans last year, they took the Browns chain and they wore it to school the next day. That's what they did to the Browns in week 1 last year. They stole our chain and they wore it to school, and they've been walking around with it ever since then. They did all the things we wanted to do. Beat Baltimore in the playoffs. They did everything we wanted to do, wearing our chain, disrespecting us. Now it's time to go into their house, take our chain back, put that thing on, and rock around in our underwear in their house with no shoes on, standing on the table, letting them know we here, we have arrived. That's what the Cleveland Browns need to do. It's going to be an uphill battle. You might not have Myles Garrett. You might not have Denzel Ward. But you have to get your signature win, and this is the opportunity. Will the Browns be able to do that? That's an answer that we're going to try to get to the bottom of this week. I want to thank everybody who's come to this live stream. I want to thank everybody who has been a Patreon member. I want to thank everybody who's just come in and chatted in there. I want to thank everybody who dropped a like, subscribe, did anything supportive. It all helps out. It's all awesome. I want to thank those who have called in. I want to thank everybody who just watched this game, period, whether you're here or not. I want to thank you guys. I want to make sure that if you aren't subscribed, you hit that subscribe button. If you haven't liked, you hit that like button. Do all those things that help me out. I greatly appreciate it. And I hope you guys hit that notification bell as well so you can be notified when I upload, because this week it's a big game. We're going to have a ton of content, and I know you're not going to want to miss it. So for week 12 post game, this is Quincy Carrier signing off. Have a great day. Have a good night.